Hello everybody and welcome. We are good to go, Somnath. How are you feeling, sir?
I'm feeling good.
Are you in top form?
I'm in top form.
I don't know if everybody's heard our new theme song.
Oh, I don't know.
You've heard it though,
Yeah.
right? And you approve?
I do.
Because it's very campy. And it gets in the head.
Yeah.
So if you haven't heard the theme song yet, we will be featuring it soon, and it'll be on the podcast. It wasn't available for the first couple episodes. By the way, do you like these, sir?
I do.
You know what this is? So this is what I wear when I'm looking at screens, especially later in the day.
Okay.
So I might need a nap today because I came in on the red eye.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at screens, I want to keep these on. We have got quite a show for you today. We're missing Alex, which is too bad.
Yeah.
Because he was with me. Although I do think that Lisa Snyder's joining, and hopefully a couple of the other people that were there too.
Okay, very good.
And Somnath's going to get the chance. I'm going to talk a little bit about things that we saw, and Somnath is going to play the role of interrogator and wring everything out of me because we took a whole team to Traffic and Conversion, which is was a 3-day program. I think there were about 5,000 people there.
Yeah.
And Ryan Dice, Roland Frazier, Perry Belcher, the digital marketing team present this. They send about 1.5 billion emails in the course of the year. So it's based on a lot of data, and they're sharing with the audience, the big picture things that they're seeing, the trajectories, what worked for them. So a lot of what we're going to do today is to try to reduce 3 days of solid, very solid and dense marketing strategies and tactics and hacks and resources into about an hour. Really, we're pulling your leg because I think we're going to have a second show on this when Alex is back too.
I think we're probably going to have to.
Because the two of us have brick and mortar businesses that we use internet marketing to support part of the very effective part of the marketing funnel that brings people in and converts them. But Alex is a much purer online internet marketing, and so I really want to get his perspective for everybody. So we're going to have a second show, but we really have actionable nuggets for you, as well as some bigger thinking, strategic things to talk about. And do not, sir, hesitate to jump in and ring out of me. So
Sure.
This is, I'm going to share this with everybody. It's a very cool looking, I noticed I have no books today.
I did notice that.
It's an improvement. I'm making up for the last time.
It's a change.
It is, it's a change, maybe for the better. Because there's so much stuff here that people are going to have to pick and choose. I didn't want to distract them. But this is a notebook that we had made that we give away. This is a Success Technologies. We also have them for the law firm. It's really an excellent piece of work. It's a blank book, and it's branded lightly, but gives people, and there's also a sort of 4-color piece in the front of it. So I'm also going to, while we're at it, just review. I've talked about this separately and at length on another show, but you'll be able to see how I access things, and you could kind of confirm for people what's going on here. So let me just tell you about my note-taking process. What I do is I leave space at the start to then create an index. And you can see, because I've been traveling since then, I have not been able to go back and take everything by page number, put it in the index, but that's usually a project. When I'm just identifying what I'm going to take from my notes and do, delegate to people, or train people on, that's the time that I'll go through.
So a couple of things happening here is, like, when we all go to events like this, there's that drinking through a fire hose kind of symptom of going to this event. You're overwhelmed, you come back and you don't know where to start, and it's a cumbersome process to go back through all the material. So you've created a system that you can make sure you can access all that material that you got in a short period of time.
And all I have to do is, as I'm going through it, I just usually make a note here by page number, so I really have an index so I can go back and get it later. Then I leave a few pages at the start, and you can see I've backfilled these where I have a to-do or delegate list. And you'll notice that I use highlighters to note the ones that I'm going to do first. And I'll go back through this. So, sir, you can see I have from a 3-day event 2, 4, 6, 7 pages of to do. So that's impossible. I'm not going to do all of those.
Right.
Nor are any of my companies going to do all of these. So my first task is to go back through these to-dos. Actually, that's not my first task. Then I have my notes broken out by speaker and by day. And that's the whole rest of this book, and it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
At the back, I also keep a couple of pages for books and resources, and then also for quotes. So it's easy for me to go get resources and things like that. And what I'll do now, and in part this is like a mini prep for this, is I'm going to go through this whole book, put the index together. That'll take me about an hour, hour and a half. And then I'll also be simultaneously putting in things into the to-do list, which is already extensive. Then I'm going to go back, and typically with Lisa or other people on the team, I'm going to go through and say, okay, which of these to-dos at the strategic level, and which at the tactical level, and which at the hack level, and I'll explain the difference, are we going to implement? Because we can only do a few of these.
Right.
So which are we going to guess will produce the biggest result, either in improved conditions for me or for the team, better client experience, higher margins. Those are all the things at the big strategic level that we're looking for. Better work-life balance for the team, way better client experience. Hopefully we can combine both of those with increasing margins, and those things are interrelated. So strategy is how we think about things at a big level. It helps us to choose what tactics. Tactics are what things we're going to implement that'll do the job.
Right.
And then hacks, to me, what I usually mean by that is a little thing that we could do. It's a refinement, typically on something that we're already doing and has proven to be successful.
Right.
That makes it better. Or it's the first step where we're not doing anything in that particular area.
Yeah.
It's a first step that gets you somewhere. Like you've shared through the years a number of hacks with me on training that get you going.
Right.
And then you kind of refine and show me increasingly complicated tactical things.
Like we talk about the natural laws of business and how the laws of nature apply to business. So we know that the coefficient of static friction is higher than the coefficient of kinetic friction. What does that mean is it's harder to get something moving than it is to keep it moving. So having quote unquote hacks to get the thing going can be very useful.
But I still say, and I think you would agree with this, strategy and clarity about where we want to be is that exercise needs to be done before we implement the hack.
Yes.
Because if somebody wants to lose weight versus build strength versus build functional fitness, I mean, there are all these things in the fitness world that we talk about where that makes a difference. Same in business.
Right.
And I constantly see, and I think you see it too, and we're guilty of it ourselves, we launch some tactical campaign without really thinking about it's neat, we saw it, we went to an event, and then we're doing it without really having clarity about exactly what that's going to do to our business and for our existing clients and the prospects we bring in. So these are all of the things that we're going to do today, and we've got tons of them for you. So I heard a quote there. I cannot tell you who it was. I think it was Ray Perez, but I'm not sure that he attributed it to anybody, and I'm not sure it was his.
Okay.
But and this is a modification of it. I've clarified it for my own purposes. It says advertising, and I've got a parenthetical in here that I added, which is part of marketing, is the price we pay for an ineffective or incomplete brand or marketing system. So the less clear we are about who we are and what our brand is and how easy it is for people to identify, and the less precise we are in our marketing, typically the more we have to pay to get the result that we want. And it typically takes longer to create that thing that everybody really wants, which is like a self-liquidating offer. Advertising that where you spend $1 produces $1.10 or $1.20 or at least $1, so that you're essentially being paid to develop leads in whatever kind of business or professional practice that you have. So this is, again, just saying it's worth thinking about all of these things and where you want to be before you run off and implement these tactical
and I think traffic and conversion is that type of event, and so are others, where you get so many tactical or resources that you pretty much know are going to work.
Yeah, because they've been so
tested by these guys.
And they may not work as well in your business or market or with your people, because like if my market is 55 to 67 and your market is the parent of kids that are X age to Y that are coming to train with you, they may be getting their information in a very different way on a different platform. Like Instagram might perform for you and Facebook might perform for me. But you kind of know that the thing's going to work.
Right. But because of that, it can be very easy to just hop from tactic to tactic. And now more than ever, because it's so much easier to market and it's so much less expensive to do this stuff digitally, that you can skip that step that we're talking about, is really thinking about the strategy and what's going to be the foundation of your business.
Which is always bad.
Which is always bad. Yeah.
Yep. And the thing is, you can actually harm your business because to the extent your systems aren't built out. If you bring lots more clients or patients or customers in, that could stress your system and give even your existing best customers less attention and a worse experience. Same with the new ones. And so you have to think about, is it really that I want more? If I want more, exactly who is it? And then that's going to help you to clarify, because you're going to know what language they speak and where they go for their information and what their problems and anxieties are. We're going to talk more about that later. So,
so we got a couple regulars on. John Wyman's on. Greg is on.
Hey, John Wyman.
Steve Richardson has joined us
again. Steve was at a conference that I just presented at, and he was tearing it up down there, asking awesome questions and sharing what he's up to with people. John
Wyman really likes your vest.
Oh, I thank you, John. Should I wear the hood? I mean, I don't know.
I'm going to vote no.
You're saying no to that?
I'm vetoing.
What is the public thing?
What do you think, John?
There's a little bit of a time lag.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take it off just because I trust your judgment. But if there was an overwhelming demand for it, I'd put it back on.
Yeah, notice my hood is down.
I did see that. And you don't have any books to share either, so
no.
You're a bully. I'm proud of it. I am proud in general that I'm a bully of bulliers. We've got lots more for you. We're just waiting to see. Oh, there we go.
Here they're like.
Is that for bullies?
I think that's for the bully of bulliers.
My kids and Robin have accused me of being a bully of bulliers, which I think is a good thing.
Well, I mean, that could be the difference between persuasion and influence.
I think you're right. It's very meta.
Yeah.
I'd just like everybody to take a moment to think about it. And anybody that wants to here we are breaking.
All right, Laura Lee Sparks.
Laura Lee. Hey, no hood.
No hood.
Now, see, I would not have expected that from you, Laura Lee. She's a very experienced marketer, and her market is attorneys, if I'm not mistaken. So think about that. She's teaching attorneys to be better marketers.
Yeah,
that's got to be a hard job.
That's challenging.
Yeah, it's challenging to teach them anything. So, I mean, I think in general, attorneys are smart, but they became attorneys for all sorts of reasons, like spankings when they were young, being made to...
Wait, what do you do?
Oh, I'm an attorney, yeah. They were all, like, I grew up in a small steel town, which is now super chic.
Yeah.
And everybody's got a beard there. Not the,
a very well manicured beard.
No, it runs the gamut. There's a lot of flannel, and it's a very affluent, sort of interesting place now. But in those days, when I grew up, having the formative experiences that made you, socially awkward, and that might have been just, my nature.
Yeah.
But then I applied myself to the martial arts, and everything changed. I learned violence as a, very powerful tool.
It really is.
And then it wasn't until sort of middle school that I turned to being more persuasive, and then ultimately realized that you want to be influential rather than merely violent. Like, I used the expression merely rotund versus, what was it, severely? Severely rotund, which no one, and Robin responded to that by going, We had a 4 lunch before the show.
Yeah. And
that's about the limit you want.
So, slightly later time today.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
We are going to be drifting as the weather gets better a little bit later, because as the long-time watchers of the show probably remember, we used to do this at 4. And then for Buckley, is Greg on?
Greg is on.
Greg, I'm surprised there's not more liking and loving. He's mad at me because I was going to try to catch his show, and I didn't get done all the research for this and all the printing and everything.
He's been very good. He's giving us a flurry right now.
Thank you. So he's not seeking revenge. We love Greg Buckley. So we're going to be moving as the weather gets better a little bit later, and we think we're going to end up in the 4 o'clock slot again. But we welcome your feedback on that. So we are constantly telling you to tell people what you want them to do because they can't just figure it out on their own because they don't know what you're thinking. So if you like anything we're saying, let us know. That's awesome. And we strongly encourage you to put questions in to the comments, and we'll be answering them.
Yeah.
Alex is not with us because he is in High Point, and I don't know. He occasionally does things that are like talking to the business school. I don't know if this is that or like a fraternity thing.
Right.
There was not a lot of detail. So, but Alex will be back probably for part 2 of this.
Excellent.
And we've got a lot of awesome shows coming up for you. So there were 3 programs that I want to talk to you about, and the 3 principles of digital marketer gave them. And then there are many more that we'll talk about in the next section. But one was by Ryan Deiss, one was by Roland Frazier, and one was by Perry Belcher. So I'm going to.
Should we give people some context on who these guys are?
Yes, let's do that. Why don't you fill them in, fill everybody in?
So Ryan Deiss, Perry Belcher, Roland,
Okay.
I don't know.
He was an investor.
Okay. So
Very smart partner of theirs.
Ryan Deiss and Perry Belcher, I guess together formed this company, Digital Marketer, and what they've done is a ton of case studies and kind of cross-referencing of different lists, and have really, we could say cracked the code, so to speak, of what works in terms of digital marketing. And over the years, they've put together this program,
And so they
Traffic and Conversion.
And they have a program where they share that, and they also have a whole section which Perry runs, which is internet marketing of things rather than information products.
Right.
So they're really giving you data in both of those worlds. They and also on using content as part of marketing.
Right.
So and they have a separate conference on that.
Yeah.
I think it's called Content and Conversion or something. So very smart guys, and this has grown. I mean, I used to go to it, it was a few hundred people, and then it made a giant leap one year to about 1,500, and then from there it just keeps growing dramatically, and it was the better part of 5,000 people there this year. So we're going to take 3 days of stuff and cram it down into 2 hours basically. So let me talk a little bit about Ryan, who opened the show, and they did a very interesting thing. The MC said, look, Ryan's going to come out. Make him feel good. Give him like a really warm standing ovation welcome. Now, that may sound weird. Like it's not Ryan asking for people to stand up and applaud.
Right.
But it's his own MC. But it's very, very smart. And think about how you could use this, because now these people are in this giant ballroom. There's thousands of them. They're creating an experience, like a rock concert kind of experience. And by getting everybody up on their feet, which they're pretty happy to do because this guy's a smart guy and he's going to share lots of information. And sure enough, I'm sure when the speaker comes out that having a 5,000 person standing ovation gets you a little bit more excited than just 5,000 people sitting there staring at you. So they engineered this very well, and I would simply say to you, be thinking, how can I use that, whether it's at a live event or in some other way where you're going to engage the audience in making the...
Well, there's so much, especially in events, there's so much more to engaging than just what you're delivering, right? And, that's something that you do a lot at your events, is that, there's musical interludes and there's physical activities, before the event even starts. During the event, we're getting up, we're dancing in some cases, just things to keep people engaged beyond, the interesting nature of the content.
So his meaning Ryan's, was sort of big shifts. So there's a couple of big shifts here. One was speed of change is now so constant. My example of that is, it used to be you bought a piece of software and you had that software for years.
Yeah.
And they push an update just very occasionally. Now, the tools that you use to do your job are changing constantly. And even when you get a piece of software, then it's the app, and it's an API for all these different things that you're bringing in.
Right.
And so the versions of this software are constantly changing. The implications to me for that are that I have to hire people who are natural born learners and love learning, team players, because that's what makes our client experience so good, and then I have to build really good constant training for them to keep them engaged, because they're going to need it and they want it too. And so be thinking about that, is that hiring people for specific skill sets is almost an anachronism anymore.
Yeah.
It's more that you have to hire somebody who could build skill sets, and change does not horrify them.
Yeah.
So be thinking about that on a go-forward basis. And if you're the kind of person that is resistant to change, one of the things you need to be doing is inoculating yourself against that and figuring out, how do I become better at dealing with change? How are we doing here? Any new questions? Oh, I like the liking.
The liking is coming through. John is a little bit upset with Tucker's contributions. He's saying Tucker is adding very little to this discussion today.
I disagree. Not to pick on one of our audience members, but I think just Tucker visually popping his head up unexpectedly or sticking his butt into the camera, as occasionally happens, is part of that engagement that we're talking about. Yeah. He's part of the branding.
Let's see here.
So another big change was the use of bots, and in particular Facebook Messenger. So what we're seeing is that these companies are opening up lots of different channels of communication. Mm-hmm. So law firms and medical practices and a lot of internet-based sales companies have been using chat for a long time, where if you are on a particular page for a while, this chat box is going to pop up and say,
right,
hey, do you need anything? I see this misused all the time, where I haven't been waiting or looking at that page long enough. I might be getting ready to take an action, and it's intrusive and sort of puts you off the game. So you really, if you're using chat, be thinking about when that thing should really come up. And Alex will talk to us about a piece of software that can help you figure out what people are doing. And remember, when Sam and I are talking about this, we don't do all of these things. We have people that do lots of these things for us, but understanding them allows us to use them strategically. But we've gone beyond chat now to Facebook Messenger bots. So what that is you're on a page and the bot pops up and says, hi, how can we help you? But you're in Facebook Messenger, which is where a lot of people, depending on your demographic, are kind of living right now. So that seems very ordinary and organic to them. And it used to be in the very early days of using bots, which was not very long ago, that it was an attempt to automate it. And what these guys are saying, and this is my experience too, is I use automation to bring people to human communication. Right. That's very essential in my practice, but it's very desirable in lots of businesses where you may be dealing at a higher, you're not having somebody spend $19 or even $297. You've got somebody that's going to engage in a relationship, like you have somebody that's going to train for 1 to 3 years. It's a big commitment. I have somebody that's going to come to multiple appointments, even though we've streamlined that process. So we're using bot and these other automated mechanisms to bring, and they were saying the same thing, bring people to human communication. So I would find this amusing too if the bot said, hi, I'm Dave's bot. Right. He's programmed me to tell you he's not around right now. Yeah. What's your name? Don. Okay, Don. As soon as Dave or somebody's in, they'll get right back to you. What number can they reach you? That's amusing and it's engaging for certain demographics, maybe off-putting for others. So you got to think about this. But the change here that we're seeing is automation, not just for the sake of automation, which is to streamline and give us leverage. And
also the automated emails and the chat is so pervasive now. You're not tricking anybody. Just because you put their name in the headline or the subject line that it's a personal email. People understand that it's automated, so that kind of being upfront gives you a feeling of authenticity, even though you're not really there. Yes. Like, hey, this is Dave's bot. Like, okay. And now you understand what
you can even give it a name. I'm Dave's robot, Paul.
Exactly.
So here's another thing I predict will happen, and I think they may have said that this was already going on, is people that use bots to deliver ads and all kind of commercial stuff to people way too early before they've built up a relationship or shown value. And that will ruin it for everybody else. Right. But for now, we have an opportunity to behave differently and maybe survive that because people will know that they've been treated differently, which is that they've come up with a piece of automation, but it reveals itself to be automation, and it tells you its whole purpose is to get you into the hands of somebody that can help you. Right. And actually, that's my next point that was in there, which is I made this observation was automation is huge leverage. So to the extent that you can put somebody into a sequence where you're delivering email and things to them that they want, so you got to figure that out, and there are ways to do that. it can be very, very powerful because you're working once and having this information delivered. So, for example, if you're a medical practice or you run a therapy practice or you're a realtor, having the stuff that everybody needs to know before their appointment with you,
right,
having that get out to them, dripped out in chunks that sort of describes the process of what's going to go on, almost everybody's going to appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to sell them something, but people get ahead of themselves and try to sell using automation before they should be trying to sell using automation. One of the things that recurred across a whole series of presentations, but was mentioned in his, was Dean Jackson. And I've always been a fan of this since I first saw Dean present on it, the 9-word question. And this is going to automation again, but leading back to human connection.
Right.
So if somebody has expressed to you that they're interested in training in jiu-jitsu, and then they didn't close for one reason or another,
right.
If you have a segmented list that says these are people that came to me to ask about jiu-jitsu and never trained in anything else,
right,
an email that goes out to them that says, hey Bob, are you still interested in training in jiu-jitsu? So the 9-word question is imprecise. It may be 6 or it may be 12,
right,
but all we're asking is, are you still interested in this as a tool of reactivation that is an appropriate use of automation? Because that's going to lead to human contact. If you are, call, you or whoever is handling the intake of those prospects. Also, it can be useful with existing clients or patients or customers. How many times do you talk about somebody that's signed up and they're training or doing one thing, they've expressed an interest in something else, it's kind of a natural for them. You can one-on-one without automation send this out that said, we talked about this, are you still interested in that? And just re-engage them without confronting them on the mat at the gym.
Right.
And it's up to them to say yes or no. You're not being intrusive, it's just an easy reminder. And my experience when I've done this is that I get almost exclusive, I get tons of response, and I get almost exclusively positive response, which is, even if the answer is no, it's like, oh no, the kids are doing this, that, now or that. But they appreciate that you checked in with them.
Right.
I'll give you, and so we're mixing things that we've both done in with things that we heard here, but an analogous technique is the technique that I've taught at programs before, and I'll share here, which is if you're doing a live event, make sure that the people who stood up and said, I'm interested in one way or another and couldn't get there, that you send them the materials or do something to acknowledge that while they weren't there, you grabbed them this thing, that thing or the other thing. So the 5th point that I had down from his program is you can ask too soon with automation. You have to give the value first, and it has to be done in a way that seems natural if you're delivering it with automation. So that would be where you're sending out information that they need for their first appointment or to prepare, rather than sending them an offer. I do not think that sending a coupon code or something for an offer at the appropriate time, that's not a bad thing. You just got to have built value and built trust first. Something that he spent an enormous amount of time on in the first hour was the customer value journey. So I just want to run through that. For the next show, I'll have a bit.ly, like short URL where you could go and get this, but what I'm going to give you now will allow you to start thinking about things in a new way. So many people just start writing stuff so most people don't have a strategy at all. Most people aren't writing content, most people aren't doing videos, but of the few people that do, they tend to do them sort of indiscriminately. Something pops up and they do it reactively. I think this gives you a framework to think about, which is, am I writing to create awareness of who I am and what we do in this marketplace of people that don't know us yet?
Right.
If you are, you're going to talk to them in a different way, you're going to offer them different things. Now, am I seeking to engage with them? Creating awareness and triggering engagement are two different things. And if you're asking for engagement before there's awareness, there's a lot of people that are going to ignore you. And then taking them from they've engaged with you, they've read content, they've watched a video which hasn't asked anything of them, and now you're going to ask them to subscribe because you're going to say, does this interest you? Are you worried about this? And then you're going to have them subscribe to a particular thing that you're interested in, which is one of the things that you offer. And at that point, you're going to treat them in a different way that will ultimately be leading them to convert which is to take the next step, whether
Right.
that's to buy something small or buy something larger. There's a process to that. And when we convert them, a lot of times, I want to just remind everybody, upsell. I was in San Diego for a meeting, and one of the things that I noticed, the statistics that this presenter was showing on upsell. So in this particular case, he was selling a book, and then before you got to the webinar that you got as a bonus, there were 2 upsells. I think the price points were like $97 and $297, or $297 and $497. And the take rate on those upsells for somebody that was paying for the shipping cost of a book were quite extraordinary. So when people buy, and this is one of the underlying messages here that wasn't made explicit, is that they are buyers and they're in the mood to buy to either get something or solve a problem.
Yeah.
And you should be giving them more tools. So one of the meta, level strategies that came out of this is make your existing clients and customers and patients more offers, and make other offers to people as they're coming in and establishing a relationship to you. But again, be careful how you do that. So we went from awareness to engagement to subscription to conversion with upsell to exciting them. So now we're doing things like, how many times do we sell somebody something and then there's this period before they consume it or they come to the class or wherever where we don't do anything?
Yeah.
And creating excitement, that is a very ignored piece of this, where everybody watching has a unique opportunity to do way more to excite them. Then ascend them. Have them ascend either by buying more, becoming more engaged with you, or just getting to the point where they're an advocate for you and referring to you. And there are different ways in which you communicate with people at different stages there. You're doing different things. And once you sort of realize that, you're able to talk to them and provide them with information that's appropriate at that stage. Again, that's where automation can be useful.
Yes.
Okay, so it was the end of Ryan's first hour of this 3-day conference, which was very valuable at kind of a big picture level, although we threw about 5 or 6 tactical things in there too. Remember, just pick 1 or 2. Then Roland Frazier, who is the investing partner, gave a program called 25 Wicked Smart Marketing Hacks That Work. So love that name. It came from a mastermind that those guys ran where they would have people present on their Wicked Smart.
Yeah.
I call mine, when I talk about it, freakishly effective. Yeah. So that's just my version of it. He did a part 1 and part 2, and he over-delivered. So here's the big strategic takeaway from this is, the one where he promised 25, he gave like 33. And the second one where he said he was going to give 25, he gave like 41. He also went through them super quickly. Too fast for most people to accurately get them all in their notes, although I will say, I think I got all but a couple. So I did get most of them, right? But here's something to take away from that. He then shared his slides through LinkedIn's slide share program. So he got all these people who wanted more because he went so fast, and it was just so overwhelming, to then go and form a relationship with him by downloading these slides. So he was giving something that they craved, which I believe was conscious on his part to create the craving. So be thinking, how can I do what Roland did there? Is it fair and is it right to go so fast through the presentation? I think it is, because people should be more selective and just picking 1 or 2 to focus on.
Right.
But also, if you were just doing that and not giving them a solution to that problem, that would be wrong. You might make them work too hard or just abandon the search to try to find where you.
Right.
But here, he gave the solution to that problem. And surprisingly, like, I went and downloaded them because I needed to go through them a little bit. A surprisingly small number of people, given the 5,000. So if there's 5,000 in attendance, and 300 people downloaded them, and he was doing this, I think, in a way that was designed to optimize that. Yeah. That just shows you how hard it is to get somebody to do something. Right. And so don't underestimate how hard it is to get people to do things. So let's talk about a few of these. So we'll talk about part 2. Because we have less than a half an hour.
Yeah, we're 35 minutes in.
So we'll talk about part 2 in the tactical piece of the next one. We have Alex here, and you'll notice some of these tilt more toward the strategic. So I'm going to go back to my notes again. Number one was increase campaign offers to the existing customer, client, or patient. They talk in terms of customers, but we have people that have all, some people have customers, some people have clients that are listening, some people have patients. So if I just pick one, I mean all three. This is gigantic because we have in the last 3 years been spending most of our time doing that because people wait too long to do their wills, or things have changed, or you offer new programs. And so going back to existing clients, customers, and patients, and people that for one reason or another had to stop training, and saying, oh, life happens, you had to stop training for one reason or another. Are you still interested in X, Y, or Z, or did you know that we did this? That's very powerful. Making more offers at different stages of that customer journey to our existing customers. It makes them each worth more, and then we start to see a pattern of the super buyer, super customer patient. And then we can identify who they are. They'll have certain common traits, and we can begin to build practices and businesses around them.
Right.
And sometimes when I say this to people who think about it, think I'm saying, oh, don't take this kind of person and help them, and that this is elitist. No, there's always a practice that's going to want to take, or business that's going to want to take care of that market segment. And doctors, sometimes when I'm talking to doctors' practices, they're saying like, well, we can't turn people away. No, I'm not suggesting that you would ever turn someone away. What I'm saying though is, if you're going to spend extra money and time and effort and dedicate your staff to it, then you're not obligated morally, ethically, or in any other way to try to bring in patients or customers or clients to your business or your practice that are hard to deal with for you, that you're not set up well with to satisfy, or that are just pains in the butt. You don't have to have a pain in the butt campaign. Although, what I have found is that the do not do list and the do not take care of this kind of person list is a valuable thing to have, because
that is getting a lot of love from Buckley.
Oh, Buckley knows it, because he knows it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing is, different businesses have different personalities, and the teams do different sorts of things really well. And so figure out what you're great at and stop trying to make everybody in the world happy, because that is a recipe to ignore.
And fundamentally is the people or the clients that we're going to be great at serving and fulfilling, we're only going to take away from their experience by trying to serve those clients that are not suited for us. And there is probably some other professional that is better suited for them.
And let's 80-20 this thing. I mean, 20% of our best clients, probably 5 or 10, produce the vast majority. And nobody believes that, but when you start to look at the statistics, maybe it's 30%, but that 30% is probably producing 90% of the income. So you should be taking care of them and making the experience good for everybody, but exceptionally good for them.
Buckley likes that too.
He's going to like this one too. Trim lines of products and services, and be doing more in the ones that produce higher margin, that you're best at, that you like doing. I mean, that's my modification on this, but there was trim lines of business. We almost all of us have too many things we're trying to do. We're trying to serve too many markets and too many different types of people. And what, again, you'll find is that a couple of your SKUs, if you're in retail, I was working with a company once that had something like 225,000 SKUs, but 150 of them made like 92% of their income. So, having all those bogs down the system, you have to invest money in inventory, or even if you're not, you have to create systems to fulfill. That's a drag. And they were convinced that all these others were lost leaders, but they couldn't have been lost leaders with statistics like that. So, let me see here. Oh, test dynamic keyword insertion into ads. Now, this is a technical one and purely tactical. Absolutely worth considering, but for most of us on the call, we would have somebody, we would pay somebody to do that. Mobile ads. So if anybody here is using mobile, like, let's ask anybody, getting a lot of your traffic on mobile, even in my audience, which is 55 and above, mobile is increasing as a percentage. Here's what we're seeing.
So for us, we're slightly younger. we're targeting 25 to 45, and most of the people are actually 35 to 45 that we're bringing in. So parents of kids that are, not infants, basically, so they have to be a little bit older. 97% of our Facebook traffic is mobile.
But you're not closing them on, Facebook traffic, okay. But you're also not closing them online.
No, we're not closing them online, but what I'm saying is like our lead generation through Facebook
Right.
is 97% mobile.
So that's happening.
Yeah.
But here's what is also happening, is if you're selling something where they're making the appointment or you're closing them online, still a gigantic percentage of people that search you out and research you on mobile go finish the transaction on laptop or other device or full-on computer. So couple of things hidden in there. One is if you're actually selling something online, they had a button that said buy from your phone, because it could, or buy from your tablet or buy from your iPad, whatever, because your technology could detect and scale what's going on.
Yeah.
And that had a 32% increase overall in their business. And then the other thing to remember is if you're not actually selling, you're not asking them to give you money online, which more people watching probably should be doing that than they are, even if you're selling some little book or report or whatever, just to identify people that might be interested, in which case you would want to use that button.
Yeah.
But you could say, contact us from the phone, but understand that many people will go to the computer to finish that transaction. Even to make appointments, because it's still, in the world we live in, you go to make an appointment online and it's not properly scaled for the phone, it's very hard to do, especially if you're older. So the way these work is that they block the blue light that suppresses melatonin production.
Okay.
So by wearing these, if I look at the screen, I can still see it. That's got the old man readers in there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't suppress melatonin production. So particularly important at night. So that is a particularly good one, I think. Buy from your phone. Spend more to get higher spending prospects. So this is going back to something that we were talking about, was identify who your super buyers are. Now, you've got two types of super buyers. Super buyers who are jerks, we're not looking for them, and super buyers who are really good and easy to work with. They value what you have, they want to pay for it.
Yeah.
And then of them, there's a subset that refers other good people to you. So you should be refining that. And that's what they're saying here. I mean, I think that's our refinement of what they were saying here. Here's an interesting one. Send them to Amazon to buy even your own product. Now, if you're not doing sort of online retail, this may or may not apply to you, but if you've got lead generation stuff, like you've written a book or something, sending them to Amazon to buy it is interesting, because if you have an Amazon store, you can see what else they bought.
Right.
And that's what these guys are expert at doing, is finding out, okay, the people that buy from me, what else are they interested in? And then they're asking themselves the questions, why are they interested in that? What need is that fulfilling? What else does that tell us? What else should we be selling them? So whether or not you sell on Amazon, you should be doing this, which is, that's just an automated way of spying on your buyers.
Right.
But you should be attempting to figure that out anyway. Whether that's on intake, because it might be kind of intrusive to say, what else do you buy on intake?
Right.
But there may be things, you say you're coming in for X, are you also interested in Y, Z, M, P? But as you develop the relationship, there may be times and circumstances where it's appropriate to survey or to ask questions about what else they want and they need, and what issues they're facing. And people come and, like in businesses we're in, people tell us challenges that they're facing in their lives. But this is very, very useful to know, what else are they doing? They said add continuity and add better types of continuity. So one thing I hate and I look for is the trick me into buying continuity.
Right.
One of the things I've seen that when you're not trying to trick me into buying continuity, but you're, and we should probably talk about what continuity is, but you're raising a suspicion in my mind, is I've seen this on several websites lately where it says in parentheses under what is essentially the buy button, you can review your order before you place it. And there was one, I was just going through I was analyzing a sequence, and it was for a company where they were selling a knife, and I think they meant to sell the knife for $4.99 as a lead generator.
Right.
But at the top of the page, where it was asking for your credit card, this is another interesting development. Order form on the page, so you click for the product and the order form could have. There was what I believe is a typo that said $499.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way if I noticed that I'm putting my credit card number in
Right.
there. So, and I actually I took the time to send to their support and say, hey, is this really $499?
Yeah,
Because you guys might want to check that. It's probably suppressing
Some sales.
some sales, from people that read. Although it may not be suppressing sales at all, which is terrifying in its own way. So continuity, add continuity if you don't already have it, add better continuity or improve your continuity. This is just, is there anything that you can or should be providing? I would say don't do it unless you've figured out a way to provide it where the value far exceeds what they're paying you on a monthly basis. Will your clients, customers, or patients perceive that paying you continuity is worth it? So that's just where there's a monthly or quarterly or yearly charge on an ongoing basis. I find that it often results with me in some angst or resentment. So there was something I tried, a product called Elysium, and they offer you a really good deal to buy it for like a quarter, meaning for 3 months. But then buried in there was we're just going to keep sending it to you 3 months at a time. And it took a while for me to catch it and then cancel it. So that caused me resentment. Other people might consider it, helpful. Like Cosmo has great copy on this. It says, you want, not to have to worry about your subscription. You can cancel at any time.
Right.
But we're going to set you up with your subscription to, and you may be wondering, why am I subscribing to Cosmo? Well, for a long time, I read the cover religiously.
Yeah.
Because they're the best blurb and copywriters on the planet for that. So I did eventually cancel it because I'd sort of figured out these formulas that I wanted to figure out. And I've produced, so if you come to the live event, I always share one of the newest versions. Oh, I have some killer stuff for this year, because I've really refined this process, where we help you to identify who it is that you're selling to, and what their objections are, what they're going to sell, and then how to bridge from this theoretical piece into writing headlines, subheads, bullets, and then content, subject lines for letter, email. It's just great stuff. So, so that is, if you're interested and you're in our family here, the super early bird special pricing on that business black ops program that we do out west is, and that's a small but amazing group.
Yeah.
That will end soon. So that's at www.3daystosuccess.com. I waited an awful long time to plug that. Yeah. So learn from my mistake. I might have wanted to work that into how you go from where you are, which is where we started. How do we take you from where you are right now to, do you want more clients, patients, or customers, and how do you get to there? And we're giving you lots of ways to get there. I might have wanted to have started with that as one of the ways. So if you're
we'll excuse it this time.
Well, I didn't bring 62 books. Yeah. Right. And I did, just so you know, I flew in so that I could do this on the red eye from San Diego last night. So, and I have not had a week, as you well know, because you've been with me.
Yeah.
I've not had a weekend off in ages. That probably should stop because it's tax season, so I'm working around the clock. We have time for just one more of this 25, and then we're going to get you to Perry Belcher's program for the last few minutes. So let me just see here. Okay. Oh, this is a great one. Give them the option, hopefully. I have an old school answering machine, so I don't know why that's on.
That might come up.
That could come on, and people could be saying something about John Wyman or Greg Buckley or Steve Richardson, but thank God it didn't. Yeah. That would be interesting. I'm not afraid of it. I just was preparing for the possibility that was going to happen. So give them the option to buy more each time you're selling. Mm-hmm. And this is different than give your existing clients and customers, make them more offers. This is when they buy, make them more offers.
Right.
And we've talked about that one. So there's a lot in here. And, you know, we could go through them, but what we tried to do is sort these so that we were giving you some of the ones that were most likely to be applicable to, you know, what you do, what I do, what Greg Buckley, Steve Richardson, and who else do we have on, by the way? Anybody we should be saying hi to?
We got the usual suspects.
Excellent.
Greg said, did you just say lazy group?
No.
No.
I don't know what I said, but it wasn't lazy.
It was no, Greg.
Because it wasn't. It was not lazy. Nobody that's on here is lazy.
No,
they're taking part of their Sunday afternoon to learn about marketing strategies and tactics. So whatever I said, it wasn't lazy. So Perry did 2 or 3 programs that were excellent. The one I want to talk about is he did one sort of on Mad Men advertising process.
Yeah.
And he would show clips from that show, which I did not watch, but I was so startled by how good it was, and maybe that was
it started off very strong.
And these were all from like the first season, which I have not had a chance to watch, but these were amazing clips. So he was really talking about how do they actually do this, you know, in a real madman process, and what could you take away from that? Mm-hmm. So there were a few things that I saw in there. I liked the process itself, which would take a little bit of time to share, which was kind of a 4-week, 4-meeting standardized process and a system, and I think that it would be good for us to I want to do another system show at some point in the future, but we really have to do coffee and whiskey first.
Yes.
So coffee, we're just going to show you. Well, maybe we should do coffee where people could come over.
Oh yeah.
And taste, because we're going to do AeroPress and French press and espresso. You and I both use the old Italian man espresso maker on top of the stove too. So here, one of the things he was saying is people buy things, I'm just going to quote him here, that make them feel better about themselves, and that this is true whether or not the marketing message is positive or negative. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So, you know, we know it's true that people are more likely to buy things that move them away from fear and anxiety and pain.
Right.
And maybe not anger, because anger, as we've talked about before, is maybe helpful in some of these things. But they will not, according to Perry, who's got a lot of data on this, pay as much for that as they will pay to enhance their own status and to remind themselves or other people of who they are, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
And I suspect intuitively that's true. I don't know that any of us would have articulated that to ourselves.
Yeah.
And that will change, I think, my marketing message. And then while I was in San Diego, I was listening to a number of people talking about driving the Rolls Royce. Mm-hmm. And one of the examples that Perry was giving when he was talking about this was an old ad. I think it was Ogilvy, who was hired by Rolls Royce. And, you know, he was having trouble writing the campaign, So even David Ogilvy has trouble writing campaigns. So if you struggle from time to time, some of these frameworks we're giving you over the next few programs will help you with that. But one of the things that he noticed when he was talking to one of the engineers was that a complaint the customers had, was that the only thing they could hear when they were driving on the highway at 70 miles an hour was the ticking of the Rolex clock that was installed, which of course was analog, the tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
So Ogilvy wrote a campaign that said, when you're like tearing down the highway at 65 miles an hour, this car is so smooth and quiet that the only thing you're going to hear is the ticking of the clock, which turned out to be an amazingly successful. Oh, by the way, Alex will be happy to know we didn't even bother setting up the Zoom for the podcast, so he's going to have to tear the audio from this. Once again, old man and middle-aged man. It's like we're really bad without him.
We really are.
We're struggling. Oh, by the way, if anybody's watching and knows somebody that's a, high school senior, preferably college age, lives in this area, we are looking for an intern who wants to have experience with this. We need somebody manning a bunch of this stuff, paid internship, by the way, and who wants to do audio and video editing, because we're driving Alex crazy with it. So, and nobody wants that.
Not like he doesn't have his own company to run.
Right. And then several others that he's consulting for. People buy things that remind themselves and to tell others who they are. I thought that was really powerful.
So what's interesting there is it's not just that people care about what others think about them. They care about what they think others think about them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very powerful. And,
Yeah.
and what Perry's getting at here is don't ignore these powerful existing human compulsions.
Yeah.
He gave another example of how human beings are sort of like pre-programmed and how we could use this. We're having a baby. What's the very first question that people ask? Is it a boy or a girl?
Right.
We don't even know why.
Yeah.
We probably don't care at some level. We cannot keep ourselves from doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've used this successfully through a variety of careers and over a number of years. It's really relying to a certain extent on this organic effect too, which is that you're opening up a loop. You're telling somebody something that creates curiosity or anxiety because you haven't finished the thought that made them creative. So
Right.
if you want to see examples of this in cheap pulp literature, Patterson and Dan Brown, I forget Patterson, he writes like crime novels and stuff.
Yeah.
These are examples of these short, punchy chapters that end in such a way as you are compelled to go on.
Right.
Even if you're not that interested in the story, you're like, well, damn, is the chicken going to die? I had an example of that when I was doing one of the first live broadcasts ever from the back porch.
Right.
And
Yeah.
people stayed on. So peeling back the onion, we've got 4 minutes to go. Peeling back the onion of emotional reasons to buy. I thought this was super powerful. And so I've got his list with a couple of others
Sure.
that I threw in. So keep this kind of list in front of you if you're writing content, and if you're having other people write content, train them to keep this list
Yeah.
in front of them. So they're buying to be liked or appreciated, to prove that they're right, to feel important, to get sex. And that's a pretty stark statement of that. Hopefully we didn't trigger anybody with that. It's a very, sexual
I think these guys can
audience.
handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a smaller audience today than usual. Sometimes we have to worry about whether we're offending anybody or not. Here, we're pretty much going to say whatever we want. But think about that. I mean, again, we're using these deep-rooted human needs when we're
Right.
writing to feel secure and to be secure. Notice some people have to say, I am secure.
Mm-hmm.
And others have to say, I feel secure.
Right.
So even the same thing, people express in a different way.
Yeah.
So the reason I mention that is that this should always be part of what we're doing with our clients and our customers and patients, is keeping track of how they describe the things that they want and that they're afraid of and that they loathe.
Yeah.
They buy things to feel attractive, comfortable, happy, smart, wise. They buy things because they're greedy. They don't like to think of themselves that way. They buy things out of fear, and they buy things out of guilt.
Yeah.
So whenever you're identifying an audience, and we've got a series of tools that we've really refined now that we'll use at the live event, because this is a little bit hard to do on your own, but you can do it. The reason it's hard to do on your own is you've got lots of assumptions about who they
Yeah.
are. But when you're thinking about who in your audience and who you want, of your existing buyers to get more of from prospects, you need to know who are they. You need to know what do they want. Where did they get their information is very important, because
Very
that's
important,
the way that you're going to reach them. What language do they use? So at the very grossest level, that's are you trying to bring in an audience that speaks Spanish and everything on your website is in English? That's probably not going to work.
Right.
But what I mean is something more refined than that,
Mm-hmm.
which is in English, we use all of these different ways to express and explain the same thing. So you need to figure that out. And what do they value or not value? You really need to know too, once you figure that out, is what they already know is a problem and that they're willing to pay for it and have the money to pay for it, but that's being underserved. The example that Perry Belcher gave was a restaurant called Snooze. It was a startup. I think it was in the Texas market. And they started as a breakfast restaurant, and they did a survey, and they were asking their customers, like, what is it that you wish you could get from us that we don't have? And people were like, we love your Sunday brunch. Love it. Wish we could get that more often. And they were like, why don't we open a brunch restaurant that just serves like a brunch,
Yeah.
all the time?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, A lot of people want brunch all the time. Brunch restaurant, killed it. We've advertised that we're going to give some resources. So let me see here. I think we're just about out of time, but let me just go to a couple.
Yeah, we're right at 3 o'clock.
We're right at 3?
We can go a couple minutes over.
So there were hundreds and hundreds of tools, and it's easy to go down this tool rabbit hole, but there were some that were just kind of amazing. ManyChat is one. So if you're interested in this bot business and using bots and using
Facebook
Messenger
bots,
then ManyChat or chatfuel.com would be two to look at. We'll probably have 10 or 20 or 30 more of them when we get together on the second one, because today we were focused on a lot of things they said that we could use strategically. I think we counted when we were doing this that there were 20 or 25 little tactical things in there too. And so in the next one, again, we always start with the strategic things because you're here, you want more clients or patients. We're telling you, you probably just don't want more, you want more of a particular kind. We're going to be giving you the strategies you have to keep in mind, as well as particular tactics that you get to pick between or among. So if you have notes from today, and you have anywhere near those number of tactics that we identified, just whittle it down. Like typically these strategic things are changing the way you think about something.
Right.
You could just make notes on those and you could start doing that. But on the tactical things, pick 1 or 2 or 3 and really just focus on them one at a time, and don't try to do all 25. So this was a pleasure. Hopefully you got something.
I got a lot out of it today.
Every time I go through this, I do too.
Yeah.
And again, we did 1 hour, and this thing was 3 days from about 8 in the morning till 6 at night or something. So there was a lot going on there, and it's worth at least one more. And we want to have Alex there for those of you guys that really have internet-based businesses. Drop us a note, like us. If you know anybody that has a professional practice or a business, please share this on your wall or share it through Messenger with them. Put them in contact with us. Tell them to like in top form. And we would love it if you went over to the podcast and subscribe to it. And while you're there, if you're subscribing, if you could give us hopefully 5-star
review. Yeah.
And soon the new theme song is going to be on there.
Nice.
Which is campy as all get out. So
good.
I don't want to give too much away, but come and get it. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend.